You're listening to the Product Boss Podcast. In this episode, we talk about navigating the quote-unquote new normal. We recorded this episode right when states were starting to open back up, and this was right before the more recent Black Lives Matter movement, which now, the new normal, feels so different. So as we start settling into this new normal, I wanted to remind you, you have the power to create ripples. One thing that Jacqueline and I believe to our core is that women have the power to change the world, especially together. That ripple effect from women is profoundly impactful and important. Which brings me to my next thing, and that is we are so grateful for our community. In the last couple of weeks, we realized even more so how amazing you all are. Thank you for supporting each other, for supporting female-owned small businesses, and thank you for supporting Black-owned businesses, helping to create ripples for small businesses that might not typically get a voice, and for helping to create waves of change. We can do this together, and that is our new normal. For now, let's jump into today's episode with our guest, Stacy Tuschl. Hey guys, Minna here. Just jumping in here to let you guys know we have something so exciting. It's a free masterclass and we created it just for you right now.
We keep getting questions. How do I pivot and sell right now? The number one question we get is, how can I make more sales? And so we want to teach you how to create a plan to boost your sales and grow your business right now. So if you want this totally free masterclass that we've created for product-based businesses, head over to pivotandsell.com. We'll see you in there.
Welcome to the Product Boss Podcast, where we help product-based businesses grow their sales and improve their strategies.
Hey everyone, I want to introduce you to my co-host and biz bestie, Minna an Amazon guru that has built a multi-six-figure product-based business.
And introducing the other half of the Product Boss, Jacqueline Snyder. She has helped launch and grow over 500 fashion apparel and accessory brands, even one of her own.
And together, we share our inventory of secret weapons that will help you dig deep and do the work it takes.
Are you ready? Let's build together.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Product Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Jacqueline Snyder, with my fabulous co-host, Minna. Hey Minna.
Hey Jacqueline.
So you guys, today we have a very special guest with us. We are so excited to have Stacy Tuschl on the podcast. She is the host of Foot Traffic Podcast and the Foot Traffic Formula. She is a business marketing coach and she is incredible. And we've actually been to some of her live events. So welcome to the podcast, Stacy.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm so excited.
We're excited to have you here. So Stacy, where in the world are you?
So I am in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay. And we were just chatting pre-call about where we are in the world. And, you know, this is the spring of 2020 and sort of all the changes that are happening with COVID-19 and the pivoting. And she's in Wisconsin, which is way ahead of making changes and opening back up versus where I am in New Jersey. So we really wanted to talk about the idea of foot traffic, how to meet the needs of our customers and like ever evolving and really sort of planning for 2020. So tell us a little bit about foot traffic and just a little background for our listeners that don't know you yet.
Yeah, so for sure. So I actually started my first business right out of high school at the age of 18, teaching dance classes in my parents' backyard. And I've been doing that the last 18 years. I think it's going to be 18 years this summer. So we have 2 performing arts academies here in Milwaukee. And, up until just a few months ago, things have always been, just so easy. And I shouldn't say so easy. They've gotten so easy over the last 18 years. And I will tell you, having this well-oiled machine, I didn't realize until COVID-19 how just kind of boring we got. There was not a lot of innovation happening. We were what I call a well-oiled machine, which means a lot of things weren't changing because you don't change what's working. And then all of a sudden, life just drastically changes and it was time to get really innovative. And I will say that we have done, pretty well through this time. I know the first month we retained about 90% of our people, which was like crazy. And then even month 2, I think we were like down to 86% retention. So, things are different. We're getting scrappy. We're getting creative. We're inventing new products and programs and offerings and all of that. And it honestly, this is weird to say, but it was almost like a needed thing to happen to kind of start to get us to innovate again in our business, because it can become kind of stagnant. We were still growing, but we weren't having those massive heaps like we did back in the day.
Yeah, COVID-19 was definitely a disruptor to all of us, right? And our schedules, our strategies. And so let's walk through this then. So let's start from short term to kind of long term, right? It feels like years versus months at this point. But initially, what would you say was your first, tweak to this ever evolving strategy that we're talking about?
Yeah. So the first tweak that we did was, I think we found out on a Friday that this was happening and we were probably closing, thinking in our heads it was about a 2-week close at the time. And we immediately said, well, let's do virtual next week. Let's immediately switch to going online. And I thought everybody's going to do that, right? Like, who wouldn't do that? And we were the only ones in my area. My mind was so blown. But what I noticed was my team, my brick and mortar team, that we have about 40 some employees, they were like, wait, what Zoom? And where would the video go? And what would we use to record the video? And then where does the video live? It was like I was talking to my mom and my grandma like that. I literally was like, you guys, stay with me. This is super easy. I just need you to hit record. I'll do the rest, right? And I realized this is my competitor. She is thinking, I don't know how to do this. So it took my competitors, I think, about 2 to 3 weeks to switch to virtual, which is just crazy how it shows you how you need to be diverse and well-rounded, because my online experience made my brick and mortar, allowed it to flourish. And I think a lot of my competitors are so stuck in how they've been running their business for the last decade or 2 or 3, right? And that, I think, was the best thing we could have done. Like, I think my customers are so grateful and so supportive more than ever. And they just keep saying to us, we see how hard you're trying. We see how fast you're working. Like, I think I'm going to get the most amount of amazing reviews and just like loyalty because of the way that we've been acting. And I think moving forward, and it's really been an incredible experience.
Yeah. That is incredible how quickly that you pivoted. And I think it's one of those things that we always learn about with running a business is that speed of implementation. In this case, it was speed of adaptation. Literally out of the gate, you made it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And you're fortunate because you have an online business, right?
Yeah.
So that was easy for you to transition versus other people get stuck, but it might have been something they've always known they needed to do, but they just weren't going to do it.
Yeah. And I was one of 40 people that understood this and thought it was going to be easy. So I had to step up as the leader to say, I've got this. Trust me. Here's what I need you to do. And then I sat there, I went into the building. Typically I don't work in the building with them. And I'm like, I'm going to show up Monday at 4. You meet me. We're going to do this together. And what did we do? We documented the system. We wrote down every single thing we did so that I didn't have to sit with 40 different people. We started to create mini leaders who fully got it. We're like, okay, she gets it. You're going to go teach those 10. You're going to go in this room and teach those people, right? So I think it's like finding the people that are willing to adapt with you on your team and going, all right, let's step up and let's lead everybody else together. Because trust me, there were people who were like, I still don't get this. And we had to have a partner videotape them because it just wasn't working.
Right. So, okay. So that was the immediate shutdown, we need to figure this out. And then what happened next for you guys?
Yeah. So we think we get through one hurdle and then the next hurdle pops up and we're like, wow, this isn't 2 weeks. They don't totally appreciate pre-recorded videos and they're thinking, but I'm paying for this teacher and where is she, right? So we realized 2 weeks in, we've got to go live. Like they want the interaction with their people, with their teacher, with their friends in the classroom. So obviously, if you don't have a dance studio, this doesn't make sense to you. But what I want you to take away is we listened to our people. We asked, how's it going? Tell us more. And people said, we don't have time to jump on these. We're never squeezing them in. She just wants to see her dance friends. Like she wants to see her teacher. She's not really into these pre-recorded videos. So then we totally scrapped it after all that work, all that chaos that we just did. And then we switched, we pivoted into live virtual classes and are still doing them right now. It's, what is it, May 22nd, 21st, as we're recording this. We're still doing it and we'll keep doing it until June 1st when we transition back into the building.
So you're transitioning back to the building as of June 1st, but how do you think this has changed you for if COVID-19 returns, which it's never left, you guys, it's still around, but things are opening up and things will transition and people will start to feel kind of quote unquote back to normal. But what does that normal look like? What does normal look like for you in the dance studio?
Yeah. So I think this is one of those things too, where it obviously varies by state and it varies by your personality. I'm a rule follower. So I want to make sure the state and the city are on board with what I think I'm doing, right? So some people are like, oh, I don't care if we're open or not. We're going to be open. I am really going, what is allowed? We are calling the city, calling the health department. We're trying to figure out everything because all it takes is one customer to be like, no, this isn't allowed. This isn't legal. This isn't right. And you don't want your reputation to start to get tarnished throughout this process. So for us specifically, it's like really staying ahead of what is allowed. We've got what ifs in so many different places. What if over here? What if this happens? What if? So even moving forward in the future, whether or not you think this is a big deal or you think it's going to happen again, what if your governor is being super proactive and he or she wants to shut you down, right? So you've got to get over like your idea and your perception of what's happening and really start to assess like what is realistic for your state. Now, even though Wisconsin just opened, our governor has been very, very strict. One of the strictest I've heard. However, I'm not into politics. My husband could fill you in, but basically they shut him down. So he demanded we close until May 26th at the minimum. And all of a sudden they overturned it. And one day, all of a sudden they're like, you're open. He can't do that. So even that stuff, it's just like taking us for a turn. But one of the things I'm thinking about is, I don't know what September looks like for me. We retained our people, but they're off of their automatic withdrawal at the end of June. That's a little scary. It's like, I had them, will I get them back? Heading into an election year is never great for us statistically. I've been in business 18 years. I've seen many elections. We have a dip always. So knowing that we're heading into a dip and we might have coronavirus shutting us down is a little terrifying, right? However, I'm being as proactive as possible. So one of the things that I'm thinking about doing, we're in the process right now, is we're building like an online digital membership, not selling dance classes, but we're selling to moms. We're actually talking to moms and selling this like mom membership to get organized, to get systematized, things like that. So what I want you to see is we've got to find a different revenue stream. We're just creating something from scratch. But at the same time, it doesn't have to be dance classes. It doesn't have to be the exact thing you're selling. It's still a passion of mine. It's something I'm naturally good at. And I know I can quickly build a funnel and get this up and running and help this get the studio through next year.
So one thing that I want to kind of say is that you're going for the same customer avatar, right? Mm-hmm. So the mom who's enrolling her kid into the dance studios, you're jumping in and saying, here, I've got another solution for you. I know you have needs. So this idea now of pivoting. So Stacy is a brick and mortar and you teach people about foot traffic into their brick and mortars. And that's the thing that's been hardest hit. And it was that idea of how can I get online? How can I sell right away? And then the idea is what am I selling and is what I'm selling relevant? And will it sustain these dips that ultimately might come or could come, but they could always come, right? So you're diversifying your product. So let's shift it a little bit because I love your experience because you're like us. You have two businesses. You've got feet in two, things in two different areas. So what would you say then we could speak to a lot of our listeners had either brick and mortars or they had trade shows like physical. They did farmers markets. They went and did trade shows where there was wholesale, or they even have a lot of wholesalers or retail shops that have not transitioned online. Mm-hmm. So I guess let's kind of shift a little bit to their needs as well, and maybe some suggestions that you might have for them.
So I think the biggest thing, because I'm very similar to you, we've done expos, we do the farmers markets, we have the banner at the baseball fields, all the things that are not really going to be happening, this year. So it is a very big pivot too. So you've got to go where they can go. So that basically forces you to go online. If you have a storefront, if you're not thinking about building an online funnel, you will start to fade your business. Like it's not going to be able to withstand this, right? I think the biggest thing you can do is to continue to be very top of mind, very present on social media, and sell that product online. The nice thing is, I think it's getting a lot of people locally to realize I can sell to the entire world. I don't need to just be selling to my 5-mile radius of my brick and mortar. It's a lot easier.
Right. And I think during this time, I want to highlight for our listeners, the thing that you do really well. And I think that the people that will really thrive during this time are the ones that are willing to put in the effort, even if they possibly will have to pivot again. So you were willing to put in the effort, listen to your customers, and then you listen to them and you're willing to pivot again, even though it's hard. When we're listening to you, it does seem a bit easy, I got to say.
I know, I'm sorry. And I get that comment a lot. I'm like, you guys, I have never been more exhausted. My back and my shoulders, I'm like watching YouTube videos to release the please, please, please understand. I have worked harder in the last 2 or 3 months than I have worked. I can't even tell you it's unbelievable how much I've been pulled back into my brick and mortar. So I do make it sound easy. It has not been easy. I have cried, literally the first day when I realized holy cow, this is the unthinkable is happening right now. I was scared out of my mind because I own my buildings. So I was thinking, I'm not going to be able to make my mortgages at some point. I'm going to lose these buildings. My house is attached to those buildings, my personal property. I was thinking I'm losing everything. Everything's going away. So I'm just very positive. So I think that's what comes across. I think anybody can get through this if they allow themselves to be open, keep following people like you who are giving amazing ideas and strategies, because there's people out there sharing their secrets, right? You just have to be open to those ideas.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that one of the secret ingredients to all this is kind of circling back to your customer. And I think that's what you've done really well. You didn't think that, I have 2 businesses, I'm way far ahead of them. Why do I need to put my thumb back onto the pulse? You took that by the horns. You got back into your brick and mortar. You reinvented your strategy over and over, and you're forecasting and pivoting and doing all the things. And I think that's what we have to all keep in mind, is that you have to get more in touch with your customer. And then that's the beauty of what happened during COVID, is that you have this access to somebody that you never had access to before. We have access to Stacy Tuschl's brain right now, you guys, So just thinking about that and pivoting. But what would you say, what have you done? Did you revisit your strategy for the rest of 2020 as far as beyond that? Or are you just right now looking at short term?
I feel we were looking at short term very deep, March, April, right? We had to be, because it was changing so fast. Every 5 days, something new was happening. I think now we're back into a little bit of a further span. Now I'm thinking September, I'm thinking October, but knowing again, you can't plan too much, because what really does happen in September and October could change up the game again. So, but when I all of a sudden invented this new business idea, I asked myself, what did I want to do with it that I would want to, I didn't want to create a business that was open for 90 days and I shut it down. This is us investing in another brand and another business that's here to stay, that will always be another revenue generator. So don't be making short-term decisions where it's a quick money maker, right? Ask yourself, what can I do and keep, whether or not my business is flourishing in 3 months.
Yeah.
Such a good point.
Did you have any realizations? I think one of the things that we saw was we had some people realize a lot of things about our team. That's happened with Jacqueline and myself too, because we have a team as well. And there was a lot of realizations of who really belonged in the team and who didn't. So I think that really comes to light. What were some lessons like that you really saw come to light?
I'm so glad you brought this up, because I don't think I've talked about it. I saw who is here to stay and who is not willing to get their hands dirty. Because here's the thing, I'm a little high maintenance, I'll say that, but I am not too good to do anything in my business. I will do whatever it needs to be done. And I saw very quickly who is not willing to get their hands dirty. No, we all have to step up here. If you want your job, I felt and some of my people were amazing, But some people, I was fighting so hard for their paycheck. And then 2 months later, they were kind of screwing me over. And I'm like, I can't even believe this is happening right now. Like, we saw the rock stars emerge in our business, and there's been a lot of shifting of like, we will not be rehiring some of these people back in fall. They will not be getting these contracts. They will not be getting the raises. Like, it was like you start to see the divide of like, who is here to stay? Who are your lifers? And then where you shouldn't be putting your energy right now. So that was very eye-opening, I will say.
Do you think, I know that you're not necessarily managing everyone, right? Because you have 40 people on that staff, but did your managers say, I was actually on the fence about that person and then this proved it? Like, were there, because there were some of our students were like on the fence. Because you said this pushed us into new things that we wouldn't have done. There's those employees that you have on your team that you're like, well, it's fine. I need them now. I'm not going to do something about it. And then when this happened, and it was the business owners fighting for PPP, they're doing everything they possibly can to make sure that their business stays afloat, that their employees get paid, and that they get paid. And then when you see the people, it's like, oh, I was right about that person, or like you said, surprise. So did you see any of that happen?
I would say with how large we are, it was a mix. There were some people I was like, wasn't expecting her to show up. Like, didn't think she was going to be helping us. And then there was like the ones that hurt were the ones that I was like, I can't believe they're not going to help me right now. Like, I have been helping them. I did not, we continue to pay our people full pay for like 8 weeks. We did not receive stimulus funding at the time. I was just paying out of like good faith of like, I want to take care of you. So I was expecting a little bit more from some of them. Like I said, if any of my employees are listening, which I doubt they are, but in case they are, some have been rock stars. Like, some I will be there through the thick and thin of anything that happens. But I think it just goes to show you really don't want to just set yourself like, well, she's okay, I'll keep her. You want those people that are diehards that are going to be here to help you. And we've definitely seen who they are. And now next year, we're going to invest into those people a lot more. Like, they'll be getting better raises. They will be getting better, like for us, like classes and hours and like the classes they want. And we're going to show them some love, knowing how much they've just been here to step up and help us in any way.
Yeah, I love that. So I know before, when you first started 2020, your husband quit his job, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was
a SWAT team.
SWAT team.
Yeah, for
like,
Milwaukee.
What's it called? Like police. But he was the SWAT team.
Yeah.
And he transitioned, and it was a big transition for your family, I'm guessing, right? But then COVID-19 hit.
Yeah.
So how do you think that changed what you saw him doing? How did that happen? Like, how did it go?
Yeah. Okay. And I'm totally fine keeping this in. So what's funny is, it was my dream for him to quit, like for years. And I was kind of pushing it. And then I realized he doesn't want to, like, he loves this job. And I just let it go. And then out of nowhere, in June, he was like, I want to quit. I'm like, whoa, okay, when are you quitting? He's like, I think December, which is a very quick, like, okay, you have 6 months to like get this going. So we did it. We got there. We felt so good. We felt financially, we're perfect. Like, this is it. Like, we're ready. So he quits. So then what is it? January, February, we're like 8 weeks in and this happens. So in my mind, I'm thinking I'm losing everything. And I think the first day I said, you have to go back to work. Like, you are the only thing right now that is stable, secure. Not only will you not lose your job, but you will have overtime. You will have the benefits, the insurance. Like, in my head, I was like, this is a no-brainer. You have to go back. And he was like, whoa. I can't just be making a decision like that in a day. Like, I need time to even process this. And I will say my biggest fear in January and February, if we would have been talking then, I would have said, I hope he's happy. Like, I hope he made the right decision, and I'm nervous he doesn't like this. So I was feeling this really big sense of guilt. Like, he's kind of turning into like the cleaner and like the mom duty stuff. And I'm like, I don't think my like SWAT team husband is okay with this. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. So I was feeling super guilty. And then when he said he didn't want to go back, I was like, okay, like that we made the right decision, because he could very easily go back and no one would judge him, right? It would look like, obviously I need to. And he was like, no, I do not want to. So it actually was a blessing in disguise, because we realized right then and there he made the right decision. And I'm just such a fast person that like my CPA was like, slow down. You are nowhere near needing him to go back to work yet. Like, you're fine. Let's just keep going. Let's see what happens. And that'll be our last case scenario. But you know me, I'm like, we gotta go. Like, you go tomorrow. I'm like, you're starting on Monday. Because he could go back within the first 6 months and just get his job back. That was always on the table. And we knew that. But I don't think that's going to happen. It's going well. He's starting to find his groove. He's like my podcast editor now. And he just does like certain Facebook ads, like just things where he talked about Canva the other day. And I was like, this is really weird. Like, I never pictured my husband saying the word Canva and understanding what it meant. You know what I mean? But it is going really well, actually.
That's awesome. So good to hear.
So is he then, because, you know, you're hustling, you're running these businesses, you've retired your husband, or, you know, he's come into the fold. Is he managing the kids and the house stuff, and how's all that going?
Yeah. So my goal was not that it was like he was like Mr. Mom. And I started to use him too much, where he was always taking them to school and always picking them up. And I'm like, you know what? I don't like that. I don't like missing out. So I started to do it 50-50. Then all of a sudden, March 15th hits. And I mean, if he wasn't home, and we really did quarantine ourselves for at least a month where my mom didn't even see them or anything. And I can't be homeschooling my kids. I'm like trying to save my business, right? So it was such a blessing that I was like, yes, please be Mr. Mom for me and take care of them so I can figure this out. If he would have went back to work, I don't know what we would have done. Because even having my mom watch them would have been not enough. Like, I needed around the clock help, because all of a sudden, you know, I was like, oh, I'm getting pulled into this conversation. Or on the other perk, I was getting PR people to say, can you do an interview with me right now in 15 minutes? And I'm like dropping everything to jump on Fox Business. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I just need to be available 24/7. So it has worked out really nice. Now my mom is back to watching them a few days a week because he is working in the business. So I need him to be able to get some time in.
Yeah, it's those blessings that you don't really realize, you know, the things. My husband's a Broadway actor and it all shut down, and he's home, but he didn't see them for so long. So it's kind of nice too that he gets to have that time back with them. And then I also would not have been able to pivot so quickly for our listeners and our clients and our students had I had to manage that. So I think we've been really fortunate in that way versus Minna's husband is
a retail pharmacist. And I gotta say, I'm struggling over here. I would love that Mr. Mom, but he does have like long hours, and then like right now he's with my kids. So it does, you make it work. But the thing is, even as a business owner or as a mom or all these things, you're all pivoting at different places. I think we're seeing that in true form here, because we're all in different places and all in different, physical spaces, but also mental spaces and all the things too. So, what would you say that you want to tell our listeners as far as, you know, something that you've learned through this process that you learned about yourself or maybe about your team or any of that?
Yeah, I think I just looked down at my computer and I have this Post-it, and I wrote this down right when this happened. And I wrote down, this is my time. And I think, like, if you believe that thought, you can get through anything, right? And I think, you know, this is when it's like kind of survival of the fittest. You find out very quickly, not just team members, but you find out what businesses are going to survive this and which ones are fragile, and their weaknesses are just exposed. And I just kept telling myself that every day. And my team and I, our phrase was, we'll figure it out. Anytime you could feel somebody would get frustrated, like the tension was like, we were all freaking out, right? And it's like, I have my sister who is the general manager. We're very different. I'm super optimistic. She is not so much. She's like, I'm like, I got to get away from you, because I am going to just, like, she's very negative. She's always thinking of like what could go wrong. And that energy was like really getting not great between the two of us. So we promised each other, like, anytime we feel it, we have to just say, we'll figure it out. We always do. Like that was it. And it was just anytime we would get there, changing that. And it's true. Like, I believe both of those statements. We've always figured out whatever situation we've gotten ourselves into. And I also believe that this really is our time. Like, this listening right now, this is your time to get creative to stand out in a market where half of the people have given up already, right? I bet it's more than half. So many people are just stopping their business, closing their doors. And this is a great opportunity to stand up and say, like, I'm committed to making this work.
Yeah. So when this all happened, I do feel like it is a personality thing. I think you're such a go-getter. So when this all happened, I got to give you guys some behind the scenes. Jacqueline was like, let's get on lives right now. Let's do it. Let's get on these lives. We need to release some podcast episodes. Who's ready to record? And I was like, I need a minute with this. I needed to process it. I'm an internal processor for sure. And she's a vocal processor. So we both were in this place where we're like, wow, who would have thought this would have happened? And we needed to process. So what camp do you think that you lived in?
Oh yeah. You guys, I decided like the next day, I'm going live every weekday. Like I went live every single weekday from March until I would say beginning of May. So for sure, the entire month of April, Monday through Friday, I showed up live. And it's like, you're like, what are you talking about? What are you going to say? There was something to talk about every day. It was just so much. So for me, I knew, because I knew this is my time. I knew that some people were going to back off, which was going to be better visibility. And what was really cool? I got this message. I hope I screenshotted this somewhere, but this guy responded. He's like, I listened to 12 podcasts. You're one of my 12. He's like, you're one of 3 that are still around giving regular content. Everybody else has backed off. And even just hearing that, I was like, this is it. Like, this is my time to get even more visible, get even more people to follow me, get even more people to hear the message, right? And because I believe I am so positive and that like anybody can do this, I wanted people to hear that. Like I wanted to save other small business owners. So I think that was what just fueled me. And I was definitely letting people know, like, today is not a good day. Today, like, or I would flat out say, like, we still haven't gotten stimulus funding. We still haven't gotten, and you guys, my payroll is like $60,000 a month. So for me, I'm like, I don't know how long I'm going to survive here when I was paying my people constantly and not getting stimulus money. So that was the scary part. Was I was like, are we not going to get this? And then am I going to have to keep heading into summer, our worst 2 months of the entire year, heading into election, the worst year we could have picked to have had this happen? Like everything was like stacked against me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I've listened to you on some other podcasts too, because that's what you did. You showed up. Like you did it for the people who follow you as their coach and also for your clients and your students. Because I think one of the things you said is that you were having some of your instructors read books to the kids at night.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? So you over-delivered in so many ways to them, and you over-delivered by showing up live. So one of the things we're trying to get our students to do and our listeners and everything is that it's because there's a lot of introverts in the product.
Okay.
Community. There's a lot. And so video is probably one of the hardest things for them to do, but we were saying that it's probably one of the best ways to replace real life connection. Yeah. And that's what you did by teaching classes not pre-recorded, but in real life. And then at the same time, showing up for them when they needed it. And so I love that you've kind of like shown this example in several ways and just pushed through, because even when we're panicking, other people are too. And it's that bond that you get when we've all gone through it together.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's your time to show up. And even if you're like, well, it's May, we're getting back to normal. I don't care. Like, show up now if you haven't been showing up. And I'm introverted too. And I didn't really before all of this, you have to remember, I worked on my business from my home before like Facebook Live was a thing. So I wore pajamas every day because this was pre-kids. I never put makeup on. I never did my hair. I like hung out at home because I'm super introverted and I'd rather be by myself. I made myself get good on camera. I made myself show up. I shower in the morning and get ready now. Like you put on your big girl pants and you just start to do it. And I think you have to just because you're not good at it. I wasn't good at it either in the beginning. I still have a lot to learn, right? I still say and like and all the things you shouldn't be saying, but I'm like, that doesn't matter. I'll figure it out and I'll get better as I go, right? So you just got to get yourself out there, get started.
I love that. So Stacy, thank you so much for being on the podcast with us. Do we want to ask questions?
Yeah. Do you want to do a quick fire with us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. So what is your coffee order?
So boring. First of all, it's like black coffee and I pretty much only drink Bulletproof and I almost always get decaf.
Okay. You do decaf Bulletproof?
Yes.
Is it because you don't like the caffeine?
Yeah, I actually just started drinking coffee like a year ago. I never had coffee before ever.
Because everybody was doing it.
Well, and I know, I'm like, what is this bulletproof thing? I started intermittent fasting and I need the coffee to hold myself over. But you can see like my energy right now. I can't have caffeine. I will be like a crazy person and I can't go to sleep at night. So I have to have decaf.
Right. Okay. That's amazing. Okay. So what is a favorite thing on your desk?
I have the sign in front of me that says the best is yet to come. And my like right hand, when I hired her and she came on full time, she sent it to me in this amazing package in the mail. And that was in there. And I look at it every day and I love it.
Oh, what a good hire too.
I know. I'm like, did I hire you or did you hire? I mean, it was amazing.
That is amazing. Okay. So finish this sentence. When I pick up my phone, I
go to Instagram.
Yeah.
Or Voxer, one of those.
Probably the same for us. You wish you knew how to
sing.
And then what was the last show you binge watched, especially since we're in quarantine?
We just finished, I rewatched New Girl. I loved it when it was on and my husband and I just watched the whole season. And this is going to be super lame, but I'm going to tell you by myself because he would never watch this, is Heart of Dixie. I loved that show and I just rewatched it the whole thing again.
So cute.
So stupid.
So what should the title in your email signature actually say?
Oh, in my email signature? I don't even know. This is a good one. I'm going to say maybe action taker.
I like it. Mm-hmm. And then do you have, you've been doing this for a long time now, but do you have or have you had an alter ego or stage persona to kind of get in front and do things that are different for you?
I wouldn't say it's like this alter ego, but I do feel like I'm performing. I think it's the dancer in me. Like I'm literally sweating right now because I almost feel like I'm on stage. So when I'm doing Facebook Lives and things like that, I do feel like there's a performance aspect and I don't want that to sound inauthentic. It's just the way I think I grew up. And I'm like, oh, people are watching, like, get ready, you know?
Yeah. I feel like your stage persona should be like a SWAT person.
Oh my goodness. I love it.
All right, Minna, you're up.
Okay. So Stacy, what is your most used or favorite emoji?
I never use emojis. Like a heart, like the generic pink heart that I'll send back to people, but I never use emojis because I'm so quick. I'm like, okay, thanks.
No time for that.
No.
And we very much believe entrepreneur years are like dog years. You learn a lot very quickly. What would you just say to baby Stacy? And this is literally baby Stacy because you started when you were 18 or 17, you said. If you could go back and give some advice now that you're further along in your entrepreneurial journey.
I would say like there's mentors out there. There's people out there doing it. Go. Like I found my mentor at 21. If I would have found that mentor at 18, I would be even that much further along.
At 18?
I know. I'm sorry.
I'm fast action over there.
It is. Yeah. It's true though. It's true. You would have. Because it is
3
like dog
years.
That would have been 21 years worth of dog life.
Yeah. And I started bad habits. People always say to me like, am I too new to hire a coach? And like, that's the best time to hire a coach. When you've been doing it wrong for 5 years and then you hire a coach, you have so many bad habits.
You
know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had a business for 10 years before I hired a coach and I started young too. I was like 26. So there's things that you don't realize and that coaching fast tracks you and all these, just having that mentor. So that is great advice. So Stacy, tell our listeners how they can connect with you and where they can listen to you.
Yeah. So my podcast is Foot Traffic. So you can go over anywhere podcasts are. And then my favorite place is Instagram. All the social handles are going to be at Stacy Tuschl, but I'm most active on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay. Thank you so much, Stacy. This is such a great interview and we really loved having you on.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So one last thing before you go. We created this podcast as a reminder you are not alone in this. Growing a product-based business can be hard, and we want to help you through it. So thank you so much for listening, and we truly appreciate it.
We want to give a special shout out to those of you that have left a review. Thank you. We read every single one of them, including this one from Jasmine at Yogalistics. So Jasmine says, I get so motivated and inspired listening to this podcast that I have to keep pausing it to take notes. Although I have a business degree, so much has changed since 2004. This podcast is the perfect tool to get my business knowledge into the current demands of social media. I'm so excited to grow with you ladies. Thank you. From Jasmine at Yogalistics. So thank you so much. We love reading these, and these really help us reach more people and help more small businesses, which is our mission. So thanks again. Hey guys, wait, before you go, we want to remind you that we've created this incredible masterclass. It is totally free. It is our Pivot and Sell masterclass where we are going to teach you how to create a plan to boost your sales and grow your business right now. You do not want to miss this. It's totally free. So Minna, where should they go?
Go to pivotandsell.com and you guys can get that free masterclass and get started on creating a plan to boost your sales right now.